This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Steven Gervais and Friends podcast. Don't forget to go and check out the Deluxe Edition Network, which are the real drunks and horsing around. Today, I'm talking about the 1976 classic Grizzly, which Grizzly, if you know about how much, we're going to be talking about that. See what happens, and hopefully it does as well as Jaws. Thank you so very much, and let's get into it. Grizzly, also known as Killer Grizzly on U.S. television, is a 1976 American horror thriller film directed by William Gridler about a park ranger's attempts to halt the wild rampage of an 18-foot-tall, 2,000-pound man-eating grizzly bear that terrorizes a national forest, having developed a taste for human flesh. However, a drunken hunting party complicates matters. It stars Christopher George, Andrew Prine, and Richard Jackal. Widely considered a Jaws ripoff, Grizzly used many of the same plot devices as its shark predecessor, which had been a huge box office success during the previous year. The giant grizzly bear in the film was portrayed by a Kodiak bear named Teddy, who was 11 foot tall. Military veteran helicopter pilot and guide Don Stober flies individuals above a national park. He states that the woods are untouched and remain much as they did during the time when Native Americans lived there. After breaking camp, two female hikers are attacked and killed by an unseen animal. The national park's chief ranger, Michael Kelly, and photographer Allison Corwin decide to follow a ranger to the primitive campsite to check on the hikers. There they discovered the mangled corpses of one of which has been partially buried. At the hospital, supervisor Lee Kittredge blames Kelly for the attacks, as the bears were supposed to have been moved from the park by Kelly and naturalist Arthur Scott before the tourist season began. Kelly and Kittredge argue over closing the park before deciding to move all hikers off the park's mountain. While allowing campers to remain in the lowlands, Kelly calls Scott and informs him of the bear attack. During a search of the mountain, a female ranger stops for a break at a waterfall. Unaware that the bear is lurking nearby, she is killed while showering in the falls. Kelly recruits the helicopter pilot Stober to assist in the search. Flying above the forest, they see Scott adorned in animal skin while tracking the bear, telling them all of the bears are accounted for, and this specific bear is unknown to the forest. Scott informs them that the animal they are looking for is a prehistoric species of grizzly bear that stands about 15 foot tall, weighs 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, much larger and heavier than a regular one, and is a hyper-carnivorous. Kelly and Stober scoff at the notion. At the busy lowland campground, the grizzly kills another woman. Kelly once again insists on closing the park, but Kittredge still refuses. The attacks are becoming a national news story, and to counteract this, Kittredge allows amateur hunters into the forest. Kelly, Stober, and Scott are disgusted by this development. Later, a lone hunter is chased by the grizzly, but manages to escape by jumping into a river and floating to safety. Later that night, three hunters find a bear cub. Believing it is the killer grizzly, they use it as bait for the mother. However, the grizzly finds and eats the cub without the hunters even noticing. Scott concludes that the grizzly is a male, as only male bears are cannibalistic. Kelly assigns fellow ranger Tom at a fire lookout tower on the mountain. However, the grizzly tears down the tower and kills Tom the next day. Kelly and Kittredge get into a heated argument over Kittredge's political ego. On the outskirts of the national park, a mother and her young child are attacked by the grizzly. The mother is killed while the child survives, but severely mutilated. Stunned by this development, Kittredge finally allows Kelly to close down the park and ban all hunters. Stober and Kelly now go after the elusive grizzly alone, setting up a trap by hanging a deer carcass from a tree. The scheme fails as the grizzly takes the bait without getting caught. The next day, Scott, tracking on horse, plans to drag the deer carcass behind his horse and create a trap by leading the grizzly towards him. Ambushes Scott, killing his horse and knocking Scott unconscious. He awakens a short time later to find himself half buried in the ground. Just as he finishes digging himself out, the grizzly returns and kills him. Kelly and Stober discover Scott's mutilated body and in despair return to the helicopter to track the grizzly from the air. They soon spot the grizzly in a clearing. The grizzly attacks the helicopter, swiping at the craft and causing Stober to be thrown clear. The grizzly kills Stober before turning on Kelly, who frantically pulls a bazooka from the helicopter. Before the grizzly can reach him, Kelly fires at the grizzly, killing him in a large explosion. For several seconds, Kelly sadly stares at the burning remains of the grizzly before walking towards Stober's mutilated body. So the funny part about this is that it is what I pretty much said it was, off or clone in a way of Jaws. Here, instead of a shark, you got a grizzly bear. Instead of a police chief, you have a park ranger. Instead of, you have Austin. It's really a funny movie. It's a good movie too, don't get me wrong, but at some points you gotta look at it as what it is, and that's a Jaws ripoff. Now we would later get more Jaws ripoffs in the form of Piranha, and I think a few other ones after that. I think there was one with a whale. And so yeah, that is it for today. Thursday I will be doing a live stream. Yeah. In-laws all day, so Saturday I might not be able to do a live stream or recording, so I'll have to look into that, see what's going to happen that day. Might end up just doing it Sunday. So thank you so very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Thank you all for the over 100 views on the Jaws episode I did, which is on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, comment, please, as it does very much help us out. It helps the channel grow, and also it helps show more support for us. Thank you so very much. And this is Stephen Gervais from the Deluxe Edition Network, signing off.
This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.